Here lies the body of Mary Lee.
Died at the age of 103.
For 15 years, she kept her virginity.
Not a bad record for this vicinity.
That and so much more on the season premiere of the Deadlights pod. Woo!
The devil's eyes. We all go a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
You're gonna need a bigger box.
They're coming to get you, Bob.
I'll play a game.
Wanna kill him all? Wanna kill him?
Don't you want it? You lose your little mind. Like dead lights.
Welcome to the Deadlights podcast. I'm your host, Sam, and introducing, for the first time ever in the Deadlights podcast studio, Matthew.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for allowing me to come aboard, ye matey,
Welcome.
onto this beautifully well-run vessel that
Hey.
we're going to carry forward.
I wish we could call it the Orca, but it's not. It's
No, that would
it's the
be
SS Deadlights.
Copyright infringements. But
Yes. But hey,
cheers, my friends. Salute to
welcome
you
to season 5.
and to you at home.
And welcome to you to season 5. Thank you so much for listening, for watching. Hope you're drinking something.
Taking it easy. Ready to have a good little listen in our conversation here on a tremendous film.
Yes, I'm excited to get into this season. Like, hopefully, you're up to date on. We're really going to deep dive more into horror movies and the behind the scenes of how these movies are being made. And, you know, you and I went to film school together, so I think it's a very just natural evolution to this podcast.
Appropriate line of conversation. We have these conversations all the time, but typically it's like, you know, surface level, whatever we might find of our own interests and stuff, and then bringing that information forward. Now this gives us the impetus, the drive to go that much fucking deeper under the covers and pull out some truly fascinating, fun, and enjoyable stuff. For all of us movie buffs, this is what it's all about.
We hope you're going to enjoy the movies that we talk about this season. And please like, subscribe, turn on those notifications to the Deadlights podcast.
And you hammer those comments for us, please, and thank you. We want to hear from you. We want to stay connected. We want to get to know you a little bit better. And you certainly have seen it by now. Our beautiful tribute, the Goodbye Leslie. But I just want to give a quick shout out to the one and only Leslie. We appreciate you greatly. I certainly do. And your bestowment to bring me into this space here after your graceful exodus. And I couldn't be more honored and thrilled and really full of appreciation for you. So thank you, Leslie.
It's going to be a fun one. Leslie, we hope you're watching. And let's start off season 5, shall we? And season 5, first movie, we actually we deferred to you. You picked this one.
Well, you know, there in the amalgamation of my life in the horror genre, and pretty much anybody who loves movies, filmmakers or otherwise, you can all pull back to a certain year in the 70s, right there smack dab in the middle, 1975, and know that there was something tried and true that fucking surely scared the shit out of you for getting in any body of water. Doesn't matter if it's chlorine, saline, whatever lean, certainly salt water. And this is the mighty Jaws.
Jaws from 1975. Written by Peter Benchley and Carl Gottlieb. Directed by Steven Spielberg. When a massive killer shark unleashes chaos on a beach community off Long Island, it's up to the local police chief, a marine biologist, and an old seafarer to hunt the beast down.
An old salt.
Doo-doo.
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 Well, we just celebrated a 50-year birthday for Jaws. So it is appropriate that we talk about this very infamous and very influential movie.
As we come into its 51st year
51.
on this beautiful day, the 1st of January,
Yes.
2026.
Happy
New Year, you benevolent, beautiful souls.
I hope you're listening on the first day of the year.
Yes, because it's meant to be that way.
It's meant to be that way. And so, yeah, we thought we'd come in big, and literally big, with a big old shark-eating people movie. And really the shark-eating people movie. It's an infamous one, and I'm glad you picked it. I think that, full disclosure, going into this podcast, I was a little bit hesitant jumping into this movie because it is so infamous. There's so much to it.
Yeah. And the infamy of this movie is not only just in the sake of visually what the audience gets to see, but understanding the hell that the crew went through to make this movie and why we have not seen another movie truly attempt to pull off what they did in the way that they did.
Making Jaws, still looking back 30 years ago, was the toughest filmmaking production experience I've ever encountered. Nothing's ever come close to the production difficulties of shooting an actual special effects movie, not a digital effects movie, that was many, many years later, but a mechanical effects movie, not in a tank somewhere in Malta or some safe tank somewhere in Florida, but in the actual Atlantic Ocean. We must have been complete idiots to have even expected to have an easy ride in the middle of the ocean making a movie.
Jaws is stamped alone on itself, and it gave Spielberg nightmares for years because of the hell of what that production was, but it just shows truly what the effort was of the entire crew coming together, steadfast, staying through all the drama that they had to go through. The shark is not working. I repeat, the shark is not working for several months on end. Not even, if we'll get to it all, but it stamped itself beyond just the film itself.
Yes, and I'm happy that it did because, yeah, that crew went through quite a lot to get it done, and I think it's a testament to the love of film and the love of the art, the love of the game, to stay on a production that was only supposed to be a month and a half, but ended up being 7 months.
7 months, $2 million over budget.
So that means that people are sticking around because they believe in it, and you got someone at the helm who's leading a crew through this tough storm.
A young buck at that, who didn't
one.
have that much behind him, but the producers knew. They knew they had their guy and that he was going to deliver for them.
Look, we don't know how we can possibly do it, but we decided we must have this. Whatever it takes, this is the most exciting thing we've ever read.
Had we read it twice, in my opinion, we never would have made Jaws, because anybody with a modicum of production knowledge would know there was no way to get a shark to leap on the stern of a small boat and swallow a man. We never thought about it. We just loved the book. We thought it would make a very good movie.
Shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
In the old Deadlights form, let's jump into the can.
Crack it open, get those sardines
Crack it open.
stinky out.
Hey, this one's to you. The first review of the year. Literally, I don't know if you've watched another film review today, but it's January 1st, so
We hope we hope we are your first.
we hope we were your first. So, something that I wanted to say, which is, I haven't told you about this at all.
Oh, good. I like that.
So Matt, along with the listener/viewer, is getting a surprise. You know, Jaws is 51 years old. It's been talked to death, and there's been a lot of different perspectives on it. I know you're going to give us a lot of awesome behind-the-scenes tidbits. But upon my last viewing of it, I made a realization, at least in my mind, that I think Jaws is actually a Western. It's actually a high seas Western film.
You don't say.
The idea peeked into my brain. We were watching it. I don't know where it came from. But then I started doing some research on it. And I started to dive into other Western movies, drawing some comparisons with it. And now I'm convinced that Spielberg was making a Western on the high seas. And throughout this review, I'm going to reference multiple different Westerns to convince you that it was a Western.
All right, we'll see where I land at the end of the tale.
I hope to bring you to my side.
I am open to it. I like where you're coming from. I mean, right off the top, Spielberg does feel like it's a sequel to Duel.
And I read it, and I suddenly said to myself, wow, this is just like a movie I just made about a truck and a hapless driver called Duel. And they're both about these leviathans preying upon every man, you know, and I saw such a comparison between the Duel, which I had done previous to Sugar Plum Express and Jaws, and I said to myself, this is kind of the sequel to Duel.
You know, Spielberg gets a lot of praise, and he's got a lot of Oscars, a lot of awards, a lot of, you know, rightfully so. He has absolutely staked his claim as a incredible filmmaker. And I think it's great that we get to go back to this movie, you know, one of his original first film projects that he gets to embark on. You know, he'll even say it, you know, the naivety that he had going into this.
When I first hear the word Jaws, you know, I just think of a period in my life when I was much younger than I am right now. And I think because I was younger, I was more courageous, or I was more stupid.
That is partly what separates this movie, especially at the time, because he is under the studio umbrella, but he did exactly the opposite of what the studio wanted him to do. They wanted him to shoot everything in studio. But he was like, no, I want to go find a town. I want to go shoot everything in the water.
The approach that Spielberg had then, remember that he was fresh then, he was new and young, and he insisted that this movie be shot on the ocean. And that alone was an innovation, because Universal at the time would normally have gone to a back lake and shot on the lot.
I think that just does a great job of adding this genuineness to this movie, and that kind of becomes a mainstay for Spielberg films, you know, having this grounded family, small town feeling, this comfortable feeling that you get when you watch these Spielberg movies. And he did it here by going to an actual town, involving a real town, people playing different parts, and it just adds to the genuineness of the film.
The thing I remember most is Steven, obviously, allowing the actors to ad-lib, because a lot of this was ad-lib. You want to get drunk and fool around, they eat coffee, I mean, all these dead doll's eyes. That's my favorite. I think that's one of the things that was so extraordinary.
Plus Dreyfus, he said, well, where's a good restaurant around here, whatever his line was. And I turned around and said, well, come straight ahead. Oh, big laugh, right? Yeah. And he left it in.
Well, then can you tell me if there's a good restaurant or hotel on the island?
You walk straight ahead.
They're all gonna die.
One of the most remembered and oft-quoted lines in the movie is Roy Scheider saying, "We got to get a bigger boat," which he improvised on the set, and I acknowledge that as a writer. You know, I'm pleased that he said that.
And so he just does such a good job of taking that Americana picturesque idea, and then in this case, very much turning it on its head and showing like a very dark underbelly to it. But it still is very familiar. Yeah. Because it's that Americana style white picket fence. Every neighbor knows each other. Everyone knows the sheriff. It feels very homey.
And so not only getting the small town vibe, but fucking choosing a real place and being like, we want to really incorporate the townsfolk, the locals, into the feeling of what this is, to really root us that much more into it. And like Martha's Vineyard became this perfect spot.
The real attraction of Martha's Vineyard you couldn't see with the naked eye. It was the fact it was the only place on the East Coast where I could go 12 miles out to sea and still have a sandy bottom only 30 feet below the surface of the water, where we could put the shark's sled and where the mechanical shark could function.
The location set, then, like, we have barely 8+ like Hollywood actors who are in this. Yeah. And then the rest we are just seeing true locals and Martha's Vineyard locals, to the extent of the big character of the town itself, who is portrayed as Ben Gardner. They don't give him any lines of dialogue. It's just, let this fucking guy speak. He's going to give us, he's going to give us gold, because it's that authentic feel. It's not trying to pull an authentic feel, rewrite it yourself, regurgitate it out. Just let it be.
When we get them silly bastards down in that rock pile, there'll be some fun. They'll wish their fathers had never met their mothers when they start taking their bottoms out and slamming into them rocks, boy.
Craig Kingsbury was a local on Martha's Vineyard, and he was quite a character. He himself was a movie and a book, and had I not gotten Robert Shaw and had I met him in an open casting call, I might have come very close to flirting with the idea of using him to play Quint. Just in talking about fishing and sharking and this and that, Craig gave me some great lines. And, one of the lines was, it's not like going out there to get a great, it's not like going out there to catch bluegills or tomicods. That's Craig's line.
I'll catch this bird for you, but it ain't gonna be easy. Bad fish. Not like going down the pond chasing bluegills or tomicods.
They advertised for some person who was a fisherman, a local, who could help Robert Shaw with his accent. Robert was a refined British actor until he met my father. And then my father told him stories about this island and the people who live here. And unfortunately, I think Robert Shaw believed them. He fell hook, line, and sinker, and so he began to repeat them. And he was interviewed on the air telling these totally outrageous stories about the local community.
You've got rich people here. There's a lot of skeletons in the cupboard here, There's more incest going on in Martha's Vineyard than probably any state in the United States. Oh, yeah.
And these are all decisions being made on set.
Yes.
These aren't like we're bringing these people in and auditioning them. This is Spielberg being like, I love this guy. This guy's hilarious. Let's put him in a scene, So it adds to that like community making a film. It's like it's everybody's baby now, and there's just like that much more care that goes into it, and you feel it. You feel it every time you watch it, and I think it's great. And then we're taking that awesome idyllic Americana town and then throwing it into a horror movie, and I think that first scene, infamous first scene, does a great job of establishing pretty much everything that we're going to be getting throughout the whole movie. We're setting the style, we're setting the aesthetic right at the beginning. Obviously, the music. Ba-bum, ba-bum. That leitmotif, which is a audio signal to the audience that every time you hear this, that means that danger is here and the shark is here. We get that right from the start. And then cut to a campfire scene. Boom, Americana right there. People around the campfire, smoking joints. Teenagers are horny. They're looking at each other. They want to fuck. Let's go skinny dipping. Immediately bringing us back into like this childhood feel. And then let's jump in the water. We're getting these like super wide landscape shots of the water.
The water, the beach.
Which makes it somewhat sinister because we're like, we don't know what the fuck's under there. We can't see below the surface. And then here comes that music again. And we're getting the shots underneath Chrissy. And of course, we're getting the great Chrissy death scene, which is drawn out and hard to watch, but for a reason.
And, we were supposed to see the shark. It was supposed to have like a breaching moment and stuff, but the animatronics were fucked up still at the time, so they just had to go with it. And like that's just that you striking gold. It's happy accidents. Bob Ross in it. They ended up having 5 guys on like a string on a ropes on either side of her, and they were just tugging her, just pulling her back and forth.
They put cut-off Levi's on and had cables running from me out to the side to 2 pilings, and then all the way into the beach. And what they would do is we'd put marks on the beach, and the guys, we'd have 5 or 6 guys on each line, and they would run back and forth from mark to mark. So I didn't have the hard work to do. I just kind of sat there and got pulled around. The guys were running back and forth on the beach.
But just knowing what that was, the blood-curdling scream, help me God, to just like sucking in water and just...
And that's another huge part that I forgot to mention that this scene established is silence. This, as infamous as the music for Jaws is, I think some of the best parts are actually when we're in silence, and it just adds to that, like, that dread, you know? And immediately when she's pulled underneath, it, like, just sucks her words underwater.
Yes.
And then all we hear is the ding ding from the buoy, just like in the distance. And it's just very quiet, very eerie. And then jump into Amity, our little beachside town that's quaint little town, and everybody knows each other. This is actually where I would love to pull my first example of why I think this is a Western, is because we have a tiny little town where everybody knows each other, everybody's neighbors, and everybody's happy and doing their thing. And then we have a big threat coming to disrupt the peace that is in this little town. Just like you would see a little idyllic Western town, the outlaws come into town and wants to take over, wants to take the money from the people, and they need a savior. They need someone to
save their summer dollars. Amity lives.
In this case, save the summer dollars for sure. So I think it's a great setup of, we have this small town where people are just so used to their ways, and then we have a quote-unquote outsider who has come in to be the police chief, and because of their moral code, they're here to just protect and serve no matter what. They don't care about the money. They don't care about anything else except to protect the people that are in this town. Very much like a sheriff would in a Western. So I think Brody is, in my mind, this small town Western's sheriff who's up against everything. And he's the only one there, you know?
I see where you're coming from now. Where does that leave the mayor in all of this?
Yeah, well, the mayor, I think that the town itself is not just the mayor. It is the entire town that doesn't really want to close the beaches.
We're really a little anxious that you're rushing into something serious here. I'm only trying to say that Amity is a summer town. We need summer dollars.
Where in a movie like High Noon, where we have the sheriff who is waiting for the outlaw to be returned back to the town, but none of the town folks want to help him.
The judge has left town, Harvey's quit, and I'm having trouble getting deputies.
People got to talk themselves into law and order before they do anything about it. Maybe because down deep they don't care.
So we're seeing the same thing in Amity, except everyone is just protecting their dollar rather than protecting their skin.
Okay.
So
do not forsake me, oh my darling.
I think the lone warrior, the lone ranger theme is definitely going to come through a lot with Brody, because he's one man who's fighting against the system of the town and also against this elemental force, which is the shark.
Yeah.
So there's my first point.
I like it. We'll see where we go from
And also, I mean, if we're in the filmmaker portion of the talk, I mean, once we're out on the water and we have the vastness of the water and there's no land in sight, that could very easily be compared to the desert, you know, where all it means is isolation and danger.
It's very important that no matter what direction my camera's turned, I didn't want to see land. I felt, my fear was, the minute the audience saw land, they'd say, look, this is getting pretty intense out here. Just turn the boat around and go toward that land that we keep seeing in your movie. I wanted the audience to feel very cut off, like they couldn't just run back to shore because there was no shore to run back to.
And, you know, within that isolation, Spielberg, in one of the behind the scenes also was quoted saying that it's a film about returning home, or wanting to return home. And for the sake of the characters in the film, but also the filmmaking process itself, and everybody just wanting it, the dreading unendingness of this film dragging on and on, the uncertainty of if things are going to work or not.
The problems of
shooting at sea are enormous because the wind, the waves, everything is moving.
I would set up a shot and I'd get my camera all set, and all of a sudden the electrical barge would start drifting in a tide that was moving this way, and the camera barge would start drifting this way, and the orca would start moving around on its two anchors. And before you knew it, we were all out of position.
You're shooting towards the horizon, right? And the camera has got the horizon. Boop. Then all of a sudden we would see a little sail. And as soon as that sail was in shot, we had to stop and wait till it went all the way across here, which took an hour and a half.
You know, that set the stage for the first blunder of like, all right, we're going to have some hiccups. We're going to, you know, all the behind the scenes bits that you see of Richard Dreyfuss, the shark is not working. I repeat, the shark is not working.
It was, if not the first movie with the radio mics, it was the first one that I was aware of that had all these radio mics all over the island. So every day you could hear this.
The shark is not working. Repeat. The shark is not working. Repeat. The shark is not working.
Going back to what you pointed out earlier is like they want to do this on the stage. It's like thank God Spielberg said there's no way I'm going to do it. It's just like we wouldn't have, once again, the authenticity that we feel from this film, how it has not been matched truly to the extent of what it set out to do.
Part of it is that it was overambitious for the budget, that the technology was not there, that they had to, you know, use parts of their brain that, you know, that you don't normally have to unless you're in desperate mode. And when an artist is pushed like that, amazing one-of-a-kind things happen. That's what happened in Jaws.
Yeah, because everyone's like, yeah, no, we're not going through what you went through.
Yeah, that's very much like, you know, a cautionary tale of what you're getting yourself into.
The sea conditions have been so impossible that it's really hurt our schedule, and you know, put a general somber note behind the scenes on the production, because we've been here 105 shooting days. And we were only scheduled for something like 65 or 70.
One bit before we exit out of the can that so near and dear to me. So going back, talking about early formidable films, the movie that got me into it all, Laserdisc. We got a couple of Jaws Laserdiscs up here with us to represent that medium, but was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Laserdisc at home, and the mark that movie left on me, that it's what I always go back to. That's what led me to film school originally and everything in my love of movies and film and aquatics. Grew up near the water, off the water, lived on an island myself. I am a true islander, don't get it twisted. Bainbridge Island, let's put a stamp on it. And so we had Robert Matty. He built the giant squid for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. They brought him in for the main build of Bruce the Shark, and then a small team under him.
Steven and I decided, you know, in a naive sort of way, that we were going to build a full-size shark and shoot the real ocean and not a tank or not a miniature. And maybe that was lack of experience or whatever, but everyone, you know, kept telling us we couldn't do it. So when I found Bob Matty, who actually had made some of these giant creatures, very enthusiastic about it, it was very encouraging.
Out there with the camera in my head and one bed, I'm not sure.
Bob Matty, my mentor, is the greatest guy in the world. He loved what he did. I just fell in right behind Bob. He was like my hero. There was never ever a down day. I mean, he was pretty much tireless, and he always looked at the upside.
We didn't have enough testing time, and on Bob Matty's behalf, if we had given him the 15 weeks that it took to work the bugs out of the shark, it would have worked on cue. We were pioneers, and that's the best word I can think of, because nobody had ever taken on the Atlantic Ocean in small boats. No one had ever worked with a mechanical shark of the sophistication of ours. You know, we struggled like mad, but the end justified the means.
The condition of the shark was the ultimate story. The shark didn't work. What do you do when your lead actor, which is this 12-ton marvel, is recalcitrant? Well, like any recalcitrant actor, you shoot around him or her.
The happy accident, again, that it was of Bruce not being able to work very well it allowed so much more of the imagination to build. And Spielberg settled on that too. Again, going back to that opening scene, he's like, this plays so much better when we're just seeing the water and the tear.
I thought that what could really be scary was not seeing the shark and just seeing the water, because we all are familiar with the water. Very few of us have been in the water with a shark. But we've all gone swimming. And the idea of this girl going swimming and the audience going swimming with her would have been too extraordinary if, like a Leviathan, the shark had come out of the water with its jaws agape and come down on her, and it would have been a spectacular opening for the film, but there would have been nothing primal about it. It would just have been a monster moment that we've all seen.
And to, again, me, my love of film and water creatures, monster being on the high seas, going back to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, like Jaws cemented something different in the filmmaking process. And how that was just gonna like resonate and hold.
Yeah, for so many people. Shall we get into the meat?
Yeah,
the bait.
Yes,
the bait of this film.
The chum.
We have the shark, which is this kind of natural force that has no motivation aside just from feeding, that's coming after people. And kind of this reminder and cautionary tale to us as humans that nature is there. We live in nature, and at any point it can turn against us and become our worst nightmare.
Look, the situation is that apparently a great white shark has staked a claim in the waters off Amity Island, and he is going to continue to feed here as long as there is food in the water.
It is also a cautionary tale about capitalism in some ways. We have
Absolutely.
this town that is completely dependent on the summer months to make their money. So much so that they are putting aside the death of 2 people to keep the beaches open, to keep the people coming, to keep shopping, to keep buying things.
Are you going to close the beaches?
Yes, we are.
Only 24 hours.
I didn't agree to that.
Only 24 hours.
This is what Brody is up against. He's up against not just the mayor, but he's up against an entire town.
Well, in a town that he's not from, that he is new to, and that he doesn't have their respect.
Yeah. And so coming in as the outsider, almost having to try to prove yourself, he has to take this stand against pretty much everybody.
Well, and this, of course, comes after the iconic Alex Kittner scene on the beach with the amazing editing that we get of every time like somebody crosses Brody's path, we're punching in tighter on the water, just very locked in to this quiet, frantic place. Ellen coming behind him, trying to rub his shoulders and like get him to relax and calm down. All the while, they don't know that he's holding in this information that there was a shark attack, and that any of these people could be lined up for it next, while he's just sitting there helplessly, just watching them.
Pippet! 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 Come on, Pippet! Pippet!
The Kittner boy gets
meat grinded?
Yeah, I mean, like it was such a crazy way they're just fucking shooting
wild.
blood out of the water.
Yeah.
Like, really? Yeah, like,
that shark just
pulverized him.
We don't even know that there's a shark around here. Oh, look, I can't argue with you. I can't talk to you.
The child is dead, and people are still like questioning whether we should close the beaches or not. And for Brody, this is he's putting his morals above everything else, because that's really all he has. He's a character that has come from New York. A little bit later, we established that he was a cop in New York, but he felt like he couldn't make a difference.
I'm telling you, the crime rate in New York will kill you. There's so many problems, you never feel like you're accomplishing anything. But in Amity, one man can make a difference. In 25 years, there's never been a shooting or a murder in this town.
And I think he wants to feel like he could make a difference. So being new on this island, having this new threat come and threaten not just his family, but his new home, he's ready to step in and be that guy that puts morality above everything else. And I mentioned it before, but High Noon is very similar. We have a marshal that's putting morality above everything else, and he's trying to get help, but no one will help him. And so it's this loneliness in morality, essentially. The people that choose to fight for the right reasons are very far and few between.
Yeah, few and far between, and then we have like 3 very different stamps on the 3 heroes that we do get.
Yeah.
One who hunts sharks, obsessed with basically this is like his white whale.
$10,000 for me by myself. For that you get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
And there were other actors who wanted to play Quint, and then Dick Sank and David Brown suggested Robert Shaw. It was their idea, because they had just worked with Robert Shaw in The Sting, which they produced, and loved him.
Incredibly intense. I mean, there was something that radiated out of him. He was a remarkably gifted actor and writer. He was also, unfortunately, the most extraordinarily competitive person.
And then we get Hooper, young, hotshot,
intellectual.
The intellectual's got a little money behind him.
When I was 12 years old, my father got me this boat, and I went fishing off of Cape Cod. And I hooked a scup, and as I was reeling it in, I hooked a 4.5-foot baby thresher shark who proceeded to eat my boat. And ever since then, yes, I have been studying sharks, and that's why I know that I'm going to go to the Institute tomorrow and tell them that you still have a shark problem here.
I cast Drivers basically because I loved American Graffiti, and I had seen him in that, and George Lucas was the person who sort of said to me, why don't you cast Ricky?
And at the end, he said, you want to make this film? And I said, no. And he said, why not? And I said, well, this sounds like it's going to be a great movie. I'd rather watch this movie than shoot it, because it's going to be a bitch to shoot.
I look at him as a very like Phaeton kind of character who's just like or Icarus, who's like very much
there we go.
Trying to ride close to the sun because it feels so good.
Well, yeah,
you get too close, you're gonna get burned.
Well, and that's what, we get him getting into the shark cage. Like, even when he decides to take it to that level, it's like, all right, this is really what we need to do. Okay, his skin's too tough, and you think you can get inside the mouth?
You go inside the cage. Cage goes in the water. You go in the water. Shark's in the water.
Finally, Brody is the one that's only there because of themselves, essentially, which is their morals.
Yeah, what he stood for from the beginning.
Protecting the town. And then almost this redemption arc where he wants to prove, I think to himself, that he can make a difference. He isn't just a cop lost in the system in New York anymore. He is the sheriff. He is the top protector of this town, and he can protect people.
Want to take him home?
Like to New York?
No. Home here. And as I approached him, I heard a conversation that went something like this. We're going to have this giant shark come out of the water and land on a boat and crack the boat in half. And I remember saying to my agent as we walked away, I said, those guys, they got to be kidding. They got to be kidding. A giant shark that cracks a boat in half? I thought they were loony.
I told him the entire story. At the end of the story, he said, wow, that's a great story. What about me? I looked at Roy and I said, yeah, you'd be a great Chief Brody, because I had loved Roy from The French Connection.
We're talking to the filmmaking process a little outside of that, but let's a little quick step in there within the writing. Peter Benchley, having never drafted a screenplay before, they were really back and forth with this Quint USS Indianapolis monologue.
A very little credited writer who made the biggest breakthrough on Jaws, which was a writer named Howard Sackler. whose idea it was to give Quint the Indianapolis speech. I mean, Howard Sackler wrote like 2 paragraphs this big. John Milius wrote a 9-page monologue for Quint to say. And then when Robert Shaw, who himself was a writer of The Man in the Glass Booth, Shaw took the speech and himself edited it down to 5 pages.
There's so many scenes and feelings that I can point to as like, oh, that's my favorite or something, but it's impossible to land solely on one, but everything about that scene is just so perfect.
1,100 men went into the water. Vessel went down in 12 minutes. Didn't see the first shark for about half an hour. Sometimes that shark, he looks right into you, right into your eyes. You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes.
They just leave it on that moment too, which is great. I think that's another point of what Spielberg does very well and what he does multiple times throughout this movie, which is these long takes of people in scenes. And he just leaves it on a person to let them act, you know? They just he lets them act it out, you know, without having to cut around.
On Thursday morning, Chief, I bumped into a friend of mine, Herbie Robinson from Cleveland. I thought he was asleep. Reached over to wake him up. Bobbed up and down in the water. It was like a kind of top. Well, he'd been bitten in half below the waist.
It's this willingness to allow the moments to come without being so like protective of the overall art, you know? Spielberg let people improvise. He let people just feel it out. And if there was a good moment that they got, he put it in the movie, you know? So again, we're adding to this genuineness, adding to this realness of the movie.
So 1,100 men went in the water. 316 men come out, and the Sharks took the rest June the 29th, 1945. Anyway, we delivered the bomb.
Hey, how about we get into the cook?
Cook it.
Cook it up. See how Spielberg cook this thing up. And I mean, if we're talking about how this movie is overall put together, I think it does a great job of delivering on what Spielberg originally wanted to set out, which was taking this very Americana idea, this like beach resort town, turning it on its head to be this very dark and scary place. You know, it brings that fear close to home.
Well, and again, going back to what we were talking about with this small town, how this stage is set and what we feel within him. If that wasn't set, we don't really care. It's like all of that is pretty much lost. Yeah. Like we are rooted in how homey and safe we kind of feel on Amity.
Amity, as you know, means friendship.
I think people have a hard time admitting that this is a horror movie sometimes too. Jaws is such a popular movie and such a famous movie. I think people have a tough time admitting that it is a horror/thriller movie, which, again, like, I think he does this really good job of writing this like commercially successful movies, but also like bringing in things that people aren't used to, like elements of horror and people being eaten, children being eaten. You know, it's like, this is a blockbuster. This is a movie that is being pushed by the big production companies, and we have children being eaten. That's like crazy to think about, even now, you know? So I don't know. I just want to, again, tip my hat to Spielberg to like, he was able to like redefine what an adventure movie is into like the horror genre.
Well, yeah, and ate his way to the top of the box office, smashing all previous records. And then, you know, funny, even on the back end of it, he heard so much of that, you know, so much steam up his ass and stuff about how great he was and everything. I don't even think he was nominated for Best Director.
Oh, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I wasn't nominated. I got beaten out by Fellini.
Let us jump into the thrill. the scary part of this movie, what makes it a horror movie, because we really don't see the monster for a majority of this movie.
Atmosphere, music, atmosphere, it's
implications.
Just, yeah, exactly.
It is the lack of seeing the monster that builds the monster to such big heights. And that is the brilliance of this movie. And like you said, it was a happy accident because they couldn't get the fucking shark to work.
We complained about the shark not being able to perform because it couldn't. It was never ready. That was what saved us. That was the artistry of the film.
Well, you know, if you break it down like comedy, you're not going to hit the punchline right away. If they hit the shark right away in the opening scene, that's the punchline right away. It's like you're not building towards any sort of payoff.
Yeah.
And our imaginations run fucking wild and rampant. We scare ourselves more out of anything, out of the unknown and uncertainty of situations. And when we have enough things tantalizing the senses to dictate the direction that we're supposed to feel and go, then everything in the head is just running wild with what that ultimately could be.
If Jaws never existed, except in the year 2005, I would have had the digital tools to have much more of the shark in the movie. Therefore, I would have ruined much more of the movie.
Going to our primal fears, and once again, something that is, not, this isn't The Exorcist. This isn't like an exterior demonic force.
Nope.
This is like very rooted in what is a part of a lot of people's lives, and also comforts and enjoyment. And you're like, oh, you're taking this away from me.
Yep. It's that visual restraint that, whether it was an accident or not, it works so well for this movie where we don't need to see it until 2/3 to 3/4 into the movie to be scared, and what's adding to that, obviously, is this POV shooting that we have going on, and also the music.
I think Jaws was the first film that I did where I was really crazy about the film. I thought it was a marvelous film. So I remember the first day I played, Steven said, what do we do for the shark? And I just played an octave E on the piano, and then E, and then F, and repeated them and accelerated them and so on. And he said something like, you think that'll work? You gotta be kidding, it's so simple.
Just like, very much so, in The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, we're using sound cues to indicate emotion and tension. And hearing John Williams talk about that was awesome. Like, he clearly understands story and how to build tension within a scene, more so than just like conducting an orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's clearly a reason John Williams is so successful at this, because he understands the pairing of visual and audio.
Well, I think John, who's prescient about all the movies he scores, he sees deeper than we do about our own work. And I think he saw something deeply primal about Jaws, and he decided that it needed a primal response. It needed a primal sound, something that was atavistic, something that was extremely basic.
He saved us, really, because the many times that we didn't have the shark, all we had to do was point the camera out to sea and play his score, and everybody screamed.
The simplicity of John Williams' score goes to like the simplicity of the title, Jaws.
Yeah.
That when, Peter Benchley talked about they had pages and pages and for like months of trying to figure out a fucking name.
We cannot agree on a word that we like, let alone a title that we like. In fact, the only word that we even think means anything, that says anything, is Jaws. Call the book Jaws. And he said, what does it mean? I said, I don't know, but it's short, it fits on a jacket, and it may work. He said, okay, we'll call the thing Jaws.
Jaws, in my mind, and probably yours and a lot of younger generations and stuff, like, it is just synonymous with the film, with the red, bold titling right here off the original poster. And it's just that's just where your mind goes. It doesn't go anywhere else.
Yep.
And that in and of itself is a feat of what that does into like pop culture, into the zeitgeist and everything is remarkable.
It's because we watched the 25th anniversary documentary, and then we watched some of the 50th. And they talked about that. They talked about how before they made this movie, Jaws was, like thinking about dentists, and people didn't even think about sharks as a threat.
Yeah.
Post Jaws, all that is different. It's just hard to imagine that and fathom that as like a person, just like there is this post era of a film that you made, like before we made this movie, it was all different. And I mean, as a filmmaker myself, it's just unfathomable to think about something that you made having such a resonance with people to change society.
When the movie was out for like weeks and months, I would still be going to the movies, not to see a new movie, but to see Jaws again. And, one for Jaws, and they'd look at you like, again? It's like, dude, just give me the ticket,
Anyone who's around my age, who's in this movie business, always kind of cites Jaws as like the first movie they remember seeing, or the movie that made them want to get into movies.
I still remember the first time that I saw Jaws in the theater and how it affected me. I walked away thinking, I want to learn how to do that when I get older.
And they didn't even realize they were doing it at the time.
Oh, yeah.
They had no idea that was what it was going to be. So that makes it even cooler. Should we get into the final ride of Jaws? Let's jump into it. Jaws is a great ride. It's a great fun adventure film. I think that these last two viewings, because just so you know how we've done it so far, we'll typically watch the movies twice, at least once together, and then typically again together or just on our own before we record this. So we get a couple good viewings of these movies before we review them. I feel like these last two viewings, I kind of felt the runtime. I kind of felt like maybe there was some stuff, because it's over 2 hours. It is an over 2 hour movie. And I was like, maybe there's some stuff that we don't need to hang on, because there's a lot of chasing the barrels and then going into the cage and then we're back up chasing the barrels again. And I'm like, maybe we could like cut out one of the chasing of the barrels scene. I love the chasing of the barrel stuff. I also love the cage stuff, but do we need it? Do we need him in the cage? All that accomplishes is having some cool cage stuff.
Well, in separating Hooper, I think Hooper in the book dies too. I might be misspeaking to that. I apologize.
Which again, that's a weird kind of moment where Hooper, he's like,
I mean, it makes sense.
At the bottom of the sea for...
It should make sense that both Quint and Hooper die, though, from their own levels of, like, not necessarily greed, but, like, the grandeur in their head and what they're out to accomplish, that they get a little overzealous. They get a little OZ, and...
Yeah, Quint, it makes sense because this is his life pursuit. He is
and he's
consumed.
fucking them over to stay stuck with them doing this
he's consumed by this,
through hell and high water.
Yeah, he's consumed by this obsession. For Hooper... He is also somewhat consumed by the obsession, but from a intellectual, almost like I can control a force that I don't fully understand perspective. So yeah, maybe they should have killed him off. And that having Brody, the only guy that's there for morality, be the hero in the end to
blow up. You son of a bitch.
Blow him up. But yeah, I feel like for me, it doesn't need to be as long as it is.
All right.
I'm sorry.
And that's fine.
I know it's 51 years old. There's a lot of hot opinions about this movie.
I adamantly disagree, but that's okay. That's my preference. Great. I wouldn't take any one frame away from what that movie. I can sit and watch it. It feels like a 90-minute runtime to me. I know it's not. I did get to this past summer get to see the IMAX re-release. And that was a fucking treasure. I mean, obviously there's been re-releases, screenings and stuff since, but I've never seen it on the big screen, like in that, especially IMAX. And And it was fun. There was like a section, the row right in front of me and my girlfriend, there was like 10 people, all friends, or so you could tell, like family friends or whatever, and they were probably in their 50s or so, and just like how they were enjoying it, all the little banters, all the stuff that, you know, clicked with me when I was a kid, that you get, again, going back, what kind of shark is that? A tiger shark.
A what?
And just let that burst into laughter, and just hearing their little chatter over just like them remembering it as when they were kids too, and first seeing it and stuff, is just like, that's the shit I love, and why we're all fans of it. And it was a very, very beautiful viewing experience, getting to see it on the big screen like that.
And that goes back to my hesitation of putting this movie in the podcast, because it's so polarizing. It's so influential of a film.
I certainly think that all of us went through a survival adventure together, the entire crew and cast and myself. And I have very, very good memories in many respects to the making of Jaws, but I have many more bad memories. But I came out of it with a career. And I will forever be grateful to, no matter what I tell you about those nightmares, to the fact that the dream from the nightmare was that I got a chance to make any movie I wanted to make, and that has continued to this day.
Jaws, 1975. Wow.
What a feature.
Yeesh. I just want to close out my thesis of Jaws being a Western by saying that, Jaws kind of reimagined what a Western could be, but bringing it to the sea. This open landscape that we only know of as isolation and of as danger and of unknown. You just switch the police chief, Brody, out for a sheriff. You switch a shark out for an outlaw. And then you switch a dusty old town out for a open landscape of water, and you got Jaws. I think the main point of a lot of Westerns, and a big point of Jaws, comes down to is when danger shows up, who is going to be the one that stands up to face it? And I think Brody finds himself in that situation, unfortunately. But
trying to be the most level-headed that he can,
yeah.
As everybody's going buck wild around him.
He's the gunslinging sheriff that we need to save us. But let's get into these Smashing Pumpkins, shall we? Let's see how much pumpkins.
Well, real quick. Apologies,
okay.
we have to go back. Creepiest kitty.
Let's do the pumpkins first.
Fuck. See, first episode, I got the order of operations wrong. I thought we were talking about the thrill. I thought we'd go right into it. We'll get it down. We'll smooth that out. Don't worry.
Don't worry. Episodes to come. Let's get to these Smash Pumpkins. Smash Pumpkin wise, what are you feeling? How many Smash Pumpkins out of 5?
Jaws gets 5 Smash.
Whoa! Come out hot.
Coming in
season
hot.
5.
First episode. My first episode of the season. My first episode.
Jeez.
Maybe a little pretentious, but again,
it only goes down from here.
This is subjective to us. Your personal impact take.
Absolutely.
And that on top of just the film that it is, and all the elements that came together. Blessed be Spielberg for everything he did. But obviously him. But so much of that point is he wasn't even there for the final shot. He had to leave.
Finally, the sun went down, and I'm shooting high speed. And I said, Steven, they're not ready, and I can't shoot high speed. Steven said, you shoot it in the morning. Steven went to the airport, got on the airplane. He was already packed and left the island. He was ready to go.
I said, goodbye, I'm going back to LA, and I got into a motorboat and sped back to the mainland.
He was coping his way through it. So you bring the expertise of the rest of the crew that he put all of his faith into and everything, and the producers for not pulling out of them when they're going way over budget. And, my last little thing with this is Spielberg he had nightmares for years afterwards about the production of this film. And he couldn't, basically unburden himself of the weight of what all of this was upon him, and what felt like was going to be a failure, that no studio would ever trust him again with any sort of budget to do anything, that this would basically be the end of his career when really it stamped the beginning of his career, that they took one of the orcas and shipped it over to the Universal lot for the Jaws ride.
And every once in a while, I go up my little electric cart and I'd visit the orca by myself, look around, make sure no tourists are around, nobody could see me. And I would just sit inside the pilot house. And I would just kind of reminisce and kind of give thanks to that movie sort of launched my career, and didn't tell anybody. Then one day I went for about 6 months later, I went for another journey back in time, down memory lane. The boat was gone. And I called up the head of the back lot and I said, what happened to the orca? He said, well, it was just rotting there. So we took an axe and took a couple of chainsaws and we cut it up for timber and we shipped it out. And it was just the strangest feeling for me. But in a way, it was good for me because it cut the umbilical cord that was joining me to some of my worst memories about filming that movie. And it kind of freed me when they broke the boat into many pieces.
And that it was essentially like his therapy was him and the orca getting to go back to it and kind of release what is like kind of somatically webbed into the fascia of his body, into the tissue, and have a little bit of a cathartic moment otherwise for himself, and kind of release everything he's been holding on to.
It is honestly amazing. Like, we watch so many of these behind the scenes things, like watching him talk about this movie, like, I think he hates this fucking movie. Like, he talks about this movie like it just the chain that is around his ankle. You know, it was just such a hard process for him. And again, it's going back to that point that I made before of like, you don't know what you're making when you're making it. And so for him, I'm sure coming at the end of this process where it was just painful, and then through the post production, you know, and finally getting it done, and then it becomes something that people love. Something that he hated becomes something that people fucking love. I can't imagine what that's like.
No, and like him even having to do the interviews for the behind the scenes, recanting all of this again. Yeah. I even thought when he had to do the 50th, I'm like, he's probably just like, fuck this. You're 50 years later, you want me to talk about this fucking hell I went through again?
Yeah.
And try and remember all these pertinent details.
It's wild. It's wild.
And we can never resonate to what that felt like. And going back to Maddie and like the crew that made the shark and the troubles they had with that, we need a behind the scenes whole documentary on just what that was. That had to have been mind melting for them. And like, you're like, am I going to be fired? And like, is this just like massive failure? We're never going to get this to work. And they stuck with them. Yeah. And pulled it together. And
why, I don't know. But for some reason, they all stuck there.
Yeah.
Quite a process. I am going to not go 5.
That's all right. Sorry. I think it's a perfect film.
That's fine. And you can, and people can. And I'm totally
and people
fine
can
with
disagree,
that.
They'll fuck with me as well. That's perfectly
But I will give it a very solid 4. I'll give it a very, very solid 4. It is a great movie, an influential film. Can't deny that at all. It's a fun film. I mean, I watched it this morning. I can't deny that I had a great time watching it again. So many things work about how they made this movie, and the fact that so many parts of this movie were just off the cuff is incredible. And you can't deny the influence that this movie has had over not just horror movies, but every movie and every part of society that has come before.
Where's that coming from?
So yes, but I think my main bugaboo does come from runtime.
Okay.
I think there could be
we are
some
talking
scenes
to
cut.
an editor here, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm always looking to cut. How about the creepiest kitty? What's the scariest part for you?
All right, scariest part is easy because I hated it so much every time I had to watch it as a kid. And I'm sorry, I have to give one more little tidbit as to what happened, how they shot this scene. It's when Hoopa goes out with Brody drunk at night onto his boat. They find a little blip on his radar. What's that? They go over to it. Well, that's Ben Gardner's boat. And then Hooper, a little OZ again, a little overzealous, is like, I just need to check something out. I got to check something out. It's like, well you're going to get in the what? This is after they wrapped, and Spielberg, a couple months or so after, was at Verna Field's, the editor's home in, I think it was like Sherman Oaks, and they were just in her pool, and they shot the sequence of Bruce with the air tank in its mouth, but then they also did Ben Gardner's boat, and Spielberg really messed around. Like he had like 5-8 different versions of Ben Gardner's head.
That scene had already been shot, but it wasn't done to shock the audience. And so I went to Verna Field, my film editor's swimming pool, borrowed a pool, because I didn't have one. I didn't have enough money to have a swimming pool in those days because Jaws hadn't come out yet and I was a poor director then. But I remember I timed it to get it for maximum shock effect.
The most satisfying edit, I have to say, was the face coming out of the boat, because when I went to that preview and that audience just went 6 feet off their seats and let out this incredible scream, that was really satisfying.
But that has always been for me.
And that was going to be mine. That's mine because that was.
We don't talk about this ahead of time.
But that's okay because as a kid growing up, this movie being around, that was always the scene I remember, and it was such a joy to hear Spielberg talk about that scene and about the fact that when they first screened the movie, he was upset about the lack of screams that he got in that moment. So he then spent his own money to then go reshoot that scene in the pool to make it right.
Well,
and so I was like, that's awesome to hear that you went back to perfect this moment that has stuck with me for so long.
And that was without the studio knowing that he was going to do that too.
Yeah,
so
they
he
just
had his own money and
spliced it
just like, I get this. I know this needs this.
It's great. I love that tidbit. That's amazing. Hey, Jaws,
1975.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much
the whole damn thing.
Wait, do that again.
The head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for the first episode of Season 5 of the Deadlights podcast. Welcome, Matthew.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for being here and for joining me on this journey as we go on through the season.
Brother, I could not be more excited, thrilled, appreciative. You are the best. Everybody around us here is the best. Leslie, you are the best. You at home, you're the fucking best. And I can't wait for the rest of what this season has to offer because it's going to be a fucking sure as shit good time. And I hope I hope you learn something or are able to teach us something too, because that's what we're looking for with those comments. Like anything that resonates to you in your personal life, anecdotes, otherwise, people you may know in the industry, adjacent stories they may have. I mean, we may be looking to bring in some, guests, of course, as I have been a guest one time in the past, and potential interview bits that we might go into too, just as we want to continue to explore behind the scenes of what makes these films and these films that we love.
Yeah.
What is it about these films that makes us love them so much? To say it succinctly,
we love them. We want to share them with you, so you love them more. So please follow us at the Deadlights Pod. We are on Instagram and Spotify and YouTube. So please give us a follow there. Like, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Matt already said comment. We want to hear those comments, all of them. And also we want to thank, of course, Playground Social,
thank
studios.
You, PGS Studio 2.0 in Chicago, Illinois.
Where we are shooting from. Thank you so much to Rudy in the booth.
Big Rudis in the booth. We appreciate you greatly, my friend.
To Michael Sinas.
Michael Sinas, Mike TV, with the tremendous display behind.
Also, Andrew Degner, who's been shooting our other content that has been coming out.
Oh, yeah, you guys have got a little sample in so far, and we're very excited for more of that to come as well.
Hell yeah! And if you want to find me, you can find me at BP Pritchie T.
You can find me at MR_Andreessen.
But until next time,
y'all stay spooky.
Y'all stay spooky. Woo! Stay spooky, y'all. Cheers. Hey.